fourth webinar of our workshop, in which we will talk about one of the relevant functions of a national system on occupational safety and health. This function is the enforcement of the law and how to ensure compliance with the regulations on occupational safety and health. We will have for this first presentation Mr. Chanjutsu. Chanjutsu is a senior officer of the ILO Department on Labor Governance, that are the department in the ILO in charge of labor inspection and labor administration. He's based in Geneva, and he has previous experience in the Ministry of Labor in China and also in the ILO office in Beijing. So he is going to introduce us on the main guidelines provided by the ILO regarding inspection of occupational safety and health, as well as some of the latest directions that are provided by the ILO. Later on, I will present some experiences also, new experiences on labor inspection, and also some of the elements or the factors that determine the compliance with the OSH regulations that we started yesterday. Thanks, Mr. Chanyu, for being with us. You have the floor.
Thank you, Felix. Good evening, dear participants.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my great pleasure to have this opportunity to provide you with some information, latest development in terms of the labor inspection, in the relevant to the topic today, in terms of the enforcement, also enforcement, and more importantly, how we can ensure compliance of also regulation at a national level. I think just now Felix mentioned my branch. Actually, I'm based in Geneva, ILO headquarters in Geneva. Actually, you may know that I'm now working in a new branch. It's a brand new branch. The full name is Social Dialogue, Labor Relations and Governance Work branch on the Tripartism and Governance Department. So I think you may know before we work together with OSH branch, but now maybe you already learned that. So OSH has been upgraded into the fundamental principle, and also the two convention has been listed in the fundamental convention. Therefore, the change of function in Geneva reflected to this and change OSH status. So today, when we talk about OSH, especially talk about the enforcement of OSH, we have to put our topic into the context. As you may know that, I think to establish an employment relationship between the employer and the worker is a precondition for inspector to perform their duty. Therefore, I think when we talk about the OSH enforcement, we have to look at the bigger picture in terms of the employment relationship between workers and the employers, even the interaction with other components of this employment relationship. So when we talk about the OSH, we have to looking at the relationship with other working condition and other general employment condition, and even the status of Social Security. So we put it the other way, we put OSH in the center of this relationship, and we have to keep in mind, no matter we design OSH policy and even think of the strategy for OSH inspection, we have to looking for the relationship between the OSH and the other aspect of the employment relationship. For example, and when we talk about the relationship between the OSH and the Social Security, I think we all know that there's an important scheme on the Social Security work injury scheme, how we can make link, especially the function of a prevention. When we enforce law, when we trying to build up safety culture at the country level, how we can leverage the two aspects of the employment relationship to build up kind of a mechanism to reinforce each other. This is just one example. In the world, when we talk about the OSH enforcement, we have put an OSH enforcement policy on the general labor policy to see what's the main challenge in terms of labor policy, especially the enforcement or implementation of the labor policy, like law compliance. What's the main challenge? So we have looking at the general picture before we set policy and our strategy for enforcement. So that's the few words before we're talking about the OSH enforcement. So when we talk about the enforcement, I think you all know that for the ILO, we have the international labor standards in this area. I think you all know that we have a Labor Inspection Convention for 81, Convention 81 for industry and commerce. I think some of country here already ratified this convention. And of course, we have the other one on in agriculture. That's Convention 129. And also we have another protocol for the Convention 81 to extend the scope of the convention into the non-commercial sector. And we also have a relevant recommendation with Convention 81, the same number, recommendation 81, and also recommendation 133, matching with the Convention 129. So this is the really the very important international labor standard when we talk about the labor inspection enforcement of law at the country level, because those international labor standards are the international benchmark. When we do comparison among the member states in terms of the good practice, in terms of the key challenge in law enforcement. So I want to draw your attention, no matter whether you ratify or not ratify the convention, but anyway, when we perform our duty, we have make reference to those international labor standards from time to time. So in order to help a member state to implement and those international labor standard, I want to draw your attention and that I want to add that before touching upon the guideline. So far, at the moment, you know, there are 151 country member states already ratified Convention 81, which means this really important, one of the important governance convention ratified by the large number of by the member states. So you can see the weight, the importance of this labor inspection convention. So in order to help a member state to implement those conventions, I want to draw your attention actually, and in December 2021, ILO organized a meeting of experts to adopt a guideline on general principles of labor inspection. And here I put the web link here. We have, I think we have a dozen and language already translated this guideline into the local, the national language. So you can find the e-version, e-guideline online. So according to this guideline, I think the mandate for labor inspection and should apply to all the workers and all the workplace in all the sector. No matter it's a private, public sector, or in rural and urban areas, or even in the formal or the informal economy, in terms of the legal provision relating to the condition of work and the protection of workers. So I will see this universal mandate embodied in these international conventions. I think we all know, and according to international labor standard, the main function of labor inspection includes, of course, the first one is security enforcement. That's the topic for today. And but in addition to that, the convention also gave a mandate, function of labor inspection to apply, to supply technical information and advice to employer and workers. So this, I think, is also very important function of labor inspection in terms of the prevention. Lastly, and we also have a function to report to the competent authority about the defects or any dispute, abuse, not specifically covered by the existing legal provision at the national level. I think this is very relevant when we talk about the enforcement challenge in certain, for certain group of people, and also in the some sector, like for informal sector, we are facing challenge to enforce legal provisions in those areas. But therefore, we have to keep in mind, we have this legal function to report to the competent authority or to participate in the national dialogue on how to extend legal coverage into those areas. And so we want to cover all the workers in all the places. So I think this interrelated and three function. So we have to keep it in mind, make a balance in terms of our intervention and also using our time in a more coherent, more balanced way. So I would say that, and enforcement is the key function of labor inspection according to this international labor standard. So that's our, I think, our common consensus. Talking about the enforcement activity or inspection activity, so generally speaking, we can characterize our intervention into three or two major categories. So we conduct and inspection in a proactive way. I think that's a very important way to, or can say to focus our intervention on the strategic issues or the challenge we are facing, because we know we have limited inspection resources. Therefore, we have to use our resources in a more strategic way, focus on the key challenge of enforcement. So therefore, we have to apply this proactive approach by different means. And of course, we have this traditional reactive way of working inspection. In terms of the, when you receive a complaint or when you have information on the accident happening. So that's the really traditional way of working. Of course, we have other function and also spend some time on other issues, like we may have some accreditation. We have give and issue the permits, administrative permit according to law. Sometimes in terms of assisting the compliance, we may also have some other program scheme to have audit, workplace audit. In many times, in order to educate workers, employers, so we also need to provide some opinions or recommendation, education function during our work. So basically, and we have this three category of inspection activity. More words about the proactive inspection. I think this is very relevant to our topic today. Of course, we know that our main function is enforcement, but we have and pay more and more attention to the prevention, because we know our limits. We have limited resources. We cannot visit all the workplace. We cannot work alone to do a better job to control the accident. Therefore, we have to leverage our resources with other means. This is why we pay more attention to the proactive intervention. And we all know that also hazards are present all the sector in almost all the workplaces. So our main challenge is how we can identify key challenge in the workplace, and then to design our inspection plan to focus on those sectors in those workplaces to solve the key issue of enforcement. So that's our key challenge. This is why I think we need put enforcement policy in place in the context of labor policy in general, and also based on the international labor standards and the guidelines. So I think that's the wonderful thinking reflection, how we can focus on our intervention and based on the national context, based on the key challenge of law enforcement in the country. So I want to mention about the necessity or the needs to put enforcement policy in place. Based on this enforcement policy, we could organize different ways to conduct our inspection. For example, here I mentioned about the inspection campaign. This is quite a popular practice now at the moment in the EU and in many member states, because we want to leverage resources of all the stakeholders to address the national challenge in terms of enforcement. This is why I think the inspection campaign could be one of the best means for us. So here you can see some and the key information how we can organize the national or regional inspection campaign. We need previous information and also the strategy how to raise awareness in the sector or at national level. And we should focus on certain sector or certain occupational risk. And so more concretely, I think we needed to develop kind of a guideline for inspector to organize this kind of a campaign. We should put an objective, the aim of the campaign, also design, designate inspector and sufficient inspector, also train them to organize, participate in campaign. And we also need develop and also inspection plan in the campaign. And also how we engage with the employers and workers in the campaign. I noticed from the participant list, I know many of you coming from national employers and workers organization. So I want to tell you that you have seen in designing, in design and the implementation of this national labor inspection campaign. You are very important and stakeholder to be in this national campaign. And I hope this kind of exercise could be applied in a continual and systematic way, because we know even to address one OSH compliance in one sector, you need maybe 1 year, 2 years, even 3 years efforts, continual effort to address the compliance issue. Therefore, we have to apply this systematic way to organize international campaign. So we need kind of a monitoring of a campaign activity and also kind of evaluation to see how we can improve our campaign, to improve the way we work together. So that's a few words about the, I think this is a proactive intervention of labor inspection based on the good practice of EU and other member states. I think in conclusion, in order to do better work on this proactive intervention, we have to consider how we can prioritize our intervention, how we can make a balance between the deterrence effects and also prevention effects, make a balance. And the more important, how can make our proactive intervention more sustainable in a more systematic way. So I think just the keywords remind you, when you design or plan to design national or sector regional campaign, also inspection campaign, please pay attention to those important aspects. Prioritization to leverage deterrence effects while paying more attention to prevention, how we can make our work more sustainable, which means looking for the impact of our intervention. Impact, not just a one-day activity and then finish. No, we should see the result of our intervention. Here, I want to draw your attention also the article number 5 of Convention 81, and also similar article 13 of ILO Convention 129, and their recommendations, number 81 and 133. They all mentioned about importance of the collaboration between the labor inspectorate or the government with the workers' employers organization. Here, I want to just quote and 2 paragraphs from the guidelines to highlight importance in this aspect. So labor inspectorate should collaborate with workers' employer organization in the design, adoption, and the review of inspection policies, strategies, and program and plan. This collaboration may take different form, such as through national tripartite consultative bodies, agreements on condition on coordination, cooperation, joint committee, consultation, and organization for campaign. So I just quote from the one article in the guidelines. I think this is the kind of a summary of a national good practice in different parts of the world. I don't know in your country, you already have a tripartite consultative committee for labor inspection, or you have a joint campaign working together to address the OSH compliance issues. But anyway, the guideline and suggests in this way. And the other paragraph mentioned that collaboration with the social partner is an essential element of the effectiveness of labor inspection system. That's really a key message. Essential element. This collaboration must be operationalized at a national, territory, and the enterprise level. So I think because of this tripartite seminar, tripartite consultation, I just want to draw your attention about the social dialogue, tripartite way of working at a national and sector and regional level to achieve our common goal to ensure and compliance at the national level. This also made it clear in the international labor standards and also the international instrument of on the labor inspection. I mentioned about the traditional reactive intervention. I think this also in line with Article 14, Convention 81. Labor inspectors should be notified and industrial accident and the case of occupational disease. I think this is really a traditional and the function of labor inspection. But I want to draw your attention, we need the data. We need the national data to help us to identify the key challenge from this national data on accident and occupational diseases. I think different countries has set up different national mechanism to collect data on accidents and diseases. But I think for the labor inspector, we need this kind of data to help us to do more analysis in terms of the policy making, in terms of allocation of inspection resources. That's the key basis, help us make policy decision. Where we go, where we put our resources on what kind of hazards, in which sector, on what kind of potential and risk we are facing. Because now we're talking about the emerging risk from climate change, from the digital transformation, from the different forms of employment, but we need the data, we need the information to help us to put the right enforcement policy in place. And so I think this is the I think this is the key the information I want to highlight. This mention about we should set up a proper channel to receive complaint, and also make sure the confidentiality to protect those workers who report to us. So I think that's also the key issue in these guidelines. So I don't know, I want to maybe stop a break a little bit to have some your feedback so far before we go further on the other topic according to the guidelines. Because I can, maybe I can ask Felix to help me if you have some feedback from the chat box, or you can raise your hand, or you want to speak. So just have a kind of interactive way for our dialogue.
Thanks, Andrew. Helen was asking how many countries of these 151 member countries that ratify these conventions are from the Pacific, if you have this kind of information.
Yeah, I remember, I think, of course, Fiji already. And I think also the, I don't know.
I can check.
I'm sure Fiji already ratified, and Solomon Island, I think, also ratified. And I think 3 or 4 countries in your Pacific area. Of course, including, if we include Australia and New Zealand, definitely the 2 countries already ratified. I think maybe like 5 or 6 already.
Solomon Islands has ratified.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea has ratified.
Yes. Fiji, definitely.
Fiji.
Yeah.
And I think
that's it, I think.
These are the ones, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know whether any country and here participants in your country, and you have update your enforcement policy or labor inspection policy recently. Anyone?
Yes, Fiji, we have our enforcement policy for our inspectors.
Okay.
Fiji.
Great. And so this is the general labor inspection policy in Fiji, or very much focused on OSH?
It's only on inspectors' enforcement policy.
Enforcement policy, great. I think that's great. Yeah, I think the main purpose of adopting this international guideline is really to help member states to put a better policy, enforcement policy in place by learning international good practice. I think you can treat a guideline as a kind of an international good practice on labor inspection or on enforcement. When you design or you want to develop your national policy, please you have a close look at this policy, the guideline, to help you and to join some good practice from it. I think Fiji, I think very good. If you have really update your enforcement policy based on the national context and also based on the these ILO guidelines, international labor standard, I think that's very good, very good practice. And the other country, even in the sector. So for example, I mentioned about maybe OSH enforcement compliance in certain sector. Even you put the right sector-based policy in terms of enforcement, they're also very good. That could be a wonderful, good practice. Okay, so without further question and the comments, if you allow me, we could maybe just the other flight, finish other flights based on the guidelines, so we can maybe discuss later on some other issues. I think according to the guidelines, and we can look at the power and the method of inspection. Of course, and this authority of inspection really based on the national labor legislation. So the guideline in a general way to mention about, first of all, the supervisory power of labor inspection. So that's really based on the Article 12 of Convention 81. And the guideline also suggests to apply some ICT. Now we have AI and other digital tools in the improvement of this supervisory function. So probably I think later on, maybe Fitke also could mention that. And we already have some good practice, how we apply the modern IT, AI, in helping us in the monitoring in the workplace. So that's the some information. And in terms of the inspection visit, and you know, and the guideline convention very much highlight the importance of unannounced inspection visit, because we are facing some limitation by the member states. They put a national policy to limit the function in this regard. Therefore, and we have to abide by the international good practice to have a non-announced inspection visit, and also how we can prepare the inspection visit, and also follow up inspection visit. Some country, I think they trying to use the checklist in the inspection visit in certain sector, maybe in some hazardous workplaces. And as I mentioned that, we have to engage with the union representatives. But I want to highlight important also have a dialogue, have a meeting with employers when we have an inspection visit at a workplace. Because I believe we have to convince the manager in the change of a safety culture at work business. I know that this is, of course, this is one of our education function, but I think this is important. Without convincing employers about the value of our work, our OSH policy, strategy, and working together, I think really it's difficult for us to just to apply this reactive way to work. we have, and during our inspection visit, we have to encourage employers to promote a safety culture at the workplace, to apply the risk management approach in control safety and risk in their business. I think I want to highlight this importance to have a dialogue, to work with employers, the leadership of a business in reaching and in making consensus with them. I think that's very important. It's my also personal experience working in the labor ministry, working in the ILO office and in local areas. I think that's really big task for the labor inspector on our modern way to have happen and build up national safety culture, and also even in the business level. Of course, we can apply different kind of tools, different kind of program, but that's really the key message, I think. We have to work with the employer and workers during our inspection visit. And so that's the power already indicated in the International Labor Standard. I won't want to repeat of that. And so I hope our national legislation, national and policy allow us to perform our duty in this way, enshrining the international labor standards. Enforcement measures, I think in general principle, and I think as I mentioned, enforcement is a primary duty of labor inspector. Of course, we have conduct our activity based on the law, national legislation, the principle of legality, and we have different means in terms of the enforcement. But in more and more in many countries, they try to use administrative fine sections, and rather than other kind of course, the other and the penal penalty also important for some serious accidents. But more and more, we try to apply some administrative penalty in order to speed up to settlement of the case or proceedings. The guideline mentioned, and this traditional way to issue the notice to employers when we found some problem in compliance, in violation in the workplace, for improvement or for stop certain really and risky and behavior. And we can also appeal and employers. And also we must agree on the compatibility of notice and the sanction. So we can apply the two different means same time. Section, I think this is also popular way for labor inspector to enforce the law. Of course, we have a right on discretion to choose and initial or not initial a sanction procedure. As I mentioned, and the sanction procedure and sometimes maybe take time to implement. And we also should have some protocol or guideline on the provision of a criteria on when and how to impose sanction. So labor inspector need those guidelines, need kind of criteria to impose sanctions. Sanction should be deterrent, update, commensurate, swiftly applied, and effectively enforced. So I think, in the keywords, we have to consider deterrence effect of sanction, not just for money, but for the result of enforcement. In line with this preventive approach, how we can leverage sanction in the national and campaign or national efforts to build up preventative safety culture. So leverage inspection in this national campaign. So I think we should, as I mentioned, keep balance between the deterrence and the prevention. So sometimes, and we have to work with the judiciary department sector in some of the civil law jurisdiction. And now I think with the regional and economic integration, there are more and more cross-border enforcement issues. Now we found some issues, we found some development in EU. For example, in EU now, I think they set up a new kind of EU inspectorate to strengthen the collaboration and the cooperation among the national enforcement agencies in terms of the labor mobility and also the entitlement to the Social Security. Very focused on the labor mobility and the Social Security. So I think with the regional integration in our region, I don't know how long, in the Pacific, in the ASEAN, and even bigger scope. So we may face some cross-border enforcement issues in this area. I think this is why I think it's important to set up kind of and platform to exchange good practice information to work together. In this regard, I think I'm very happy to see that you are thinking to set up kind of a ministerial level forum in your Pacific Island countries or even in the whole Pacific area, and on the sub-regional development plan. I think that's a very encouraging and information when we talk about the collaboration among the member states, especially on the law enforcement. I think that's the very encouraging development. Few words about the, I think second function of labor inspection. This is really, the title of our section is to ensure compliance. But how we can ensure compliance? We need partnership. We need the shift our work from a traditional way to the modern way, focusing on prevention. I think this is why I think we all know accidents happen because of risk. We have to control risk at the workplace level in order to change the situation. This is why I highlight the importance to work with employers to control risk at the workplace, to make sure safety, and even beyond safety, we can achieve a comfort by and more efforts. So that's, I think, and the logic behind this new paradigm on prevention. Because we know and we have limited resources, by working alone, we cannot achieve our objective, protect all the workers in all the workplace. Therefore, we have to work together in a collaborative way to help business employers to control the safety risk at the workplace. So in this regard, I think several points we have just drawn your attention. As I think you all know, in the ILO, we have a guideline on the OSH management system. I think this and the keyword for this system is how to set up mechanism system to control the safety risk at workplace. And also, and with the leadership, and the leadership of the enterprise. We all know that, and you know, even the traditional work injury scheme has a three function, you know, compensation, the cure, rehabilitation. But very much we have to pay more attention to the prevention function. I think that's the link between the OSH work and the work injury scheme. So whether we can work with this scheme to leverage and the importance of prevention. And so we all believe, I think prevention is better than the protection, and the proactive approach are preferred to the reactive approach. So in more, and I think a diplomatic way, we have to achieve a balance between the two ways of working. So now come to labor inspection enforcement and also in general. I think for labor inspector, when we go to business, when we perform our inspection duty, we have to look at the information, the situation on how and the business are organized concerning OSH, to see the big picture, whether enterprise has also their internal control, internal management system, kind of a management system to control the safety risk. You have to better understand that. And also to see whether employers and also the business has set up risk assessment approach or take action to control the risk. I think that's the key information we need. And how and the business to manage and maintain necessary preventive measures in the workplace. So those, I think, key information, key area of the topic. We need to have a dialogue with the business leaders and also social partners, workers' representative, and also have some reflection about accident happening in that business or in certain sector, whether we have some systematic risk in the sector, and how we can help them to set up and program or inspection campaign, work with different stakeholders to control the risk. I think that's the some reflection about this new approach for labor inspection and OSH and campaign. In the end, I really want to draw your attention. I think at a national level, I think this is very much required by the convention, the core principle convention 187. You know, this preventive approach to build up national safety culture. And I think we have a different role at the national level. The government, of course, we need our commitment to put the policy, the OSH into the national agenda. We need really commitment by the state leaders and all the level, the local leaders, about the value and the importance of OSH. And after that, we try to allocate adequate means resources to work together, to leverage different resources, to generate, to improve national safety culture, and very much focus on the hazardous sector, and by the better understanding of prevention and control measures. And I think here I want to really suggest you to work in the tripartite way, even with other stakeholders, to put right enforcement policy and to have a really national OSH system in place. So I think in the later section, you'll have a section talking about the national profile, the national program, but the keywords, how we can work together to develop those national profile, national program based on international labor standards. I think I already mentioned about the importance to have a dialogue to helping improve business to promote safety culture at the workplace level. So this is required by the international labor standard and the ILO guidelines, working in a collaborative way. And I hope the social partner can support the work of labor inspection. And we can work together to apply different means, different way to work together. I have advisory service to put a code of conduct in place. And also we can organize inspection campaign to raise awareness. And also can leverage some, I mentioned about the incentive between the enforcement means and also this preventive means to have some incentive. In the words, let us work together between the National Labor Inspectorate and the social partners to address the national key challenge we are facing in terms of protection of worker safety and health, based on the international value and the international labor standards. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So if you have any question, so we can discuss. And of course, Felix can also have some sharing of good practice from you. Keep in mind that the main theme of this year World Day on Safety and Health at Work that happened just Monday, 2 days ago, very much focused on the AI and the digital transformation, their impact to the work of labor inspection, and also to the OSH in general in the workplace.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sanju. I would like to invite participants, if you have any question or comment that you may share with the group or with Mr. Chanju. Okay, Sanju, can you please try to stop sharing the presentation?
Okay.
So I will share some of my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
First thing I would like just to let you know that I have uploaded 2 documents that Mr. Chanju has mentioned in his presentation. One is the the guidelines on general principles on labor inspection that he was mentioning in different part of his presentation. And the second one is the ILO guidelines on occupational safety and health management system that were adopted by the ILO in 2001. As Mr. Chanju was mentioning, I wanted just to share with you a couple of experiences that have been considered and have been discussed in the inspectorates, and they are particularly interesting because well, they affect or the work of the labor inspectorate or the work in the companies, and also have some important implications in the reduction of accidents or diseases. For example, the first case study is this arm-mounted terminal that is placed in the worker's upper arms to check body function data. I mean, this instrument can be used for different purposes. One thing in some companies is used just to check how much work workers are doing, how many breaks they take, how many boxes they process, etc., etc. So in some extent, it can create some stress or some pressure on the workers. Workers are not happy with this type of use of these devices just to stimulate productivity, but people feel these devices like excessive supervision on their activities, particularly because in some companies they have a big displays on what each worker is doing. So it is putting a lot of pressure. However, depending on the implementation, these R-mounted terminals can provide a lot of information that could be useful for preventing risk, or can be used as a signal to help in emergency situations. For example, these devices can monitor temperature, heart rate, fatigue, and heat stress, and workers may have a mobile app to get feedback, almost constant feedback on what are their body parameters that can affect their health or their safety. So this is something that can be used. In the companies that they are using these R-mounted terminals with preventive purposes, also managers, they have this information, even if it is anonymous. I mean, it's aggregated data, not displaying who is the worker, but it's also very useful for having alerts, having personal reports on how you are working or you are overworking. Also, sometimes it is used that, for example, imagine that they can also send a signal when someone is falling or has a heart attack, for example, and fall in the ground. Emergency services may know about this thing. So it has some important use. And also inspectors, when checking performing inspection visits, can check also how useful could be for the prevention purposes, but also taking into account the request of workers for keeping privacy in the workplace. Another thing that is also quite interesting is a system that is a real-time hazard detection by using artificial intelligence powered computer vision. Basically, the idea of these systems is that they have some videos collecting information from all the company. And this, the images collected by these videos compare the different operations, the different activities of the workers, including postures, with a repository of safety and health data that it allows to identify 50 different categories of unsafe acts and unsafe conditions in real time with the purpose of identifying what is happening if something happening is wrong. As you can see in these pictures, the system is preserving the worker privacy. I mean, just to avoid, just to identify who is the worker who is doing whatever it is, and also provides information regarding postures, because postures can, as you know, create musculoskeletal disorders when there are bad postures. So they can get this kind of information, can evaluate the body mechanics, the behaviors, positions, to prevent ergonomic injuries. Also, this system can be also integrated with other existing systems to provide immediate alerts and automated protective measures. For example, imagine that you have a video recording this forklift moving, or here. When the forklift moving is very close to someone, you can have an alarm just allowing the driver or the other person to avoid this a possible crash. So this is another thing in which workers and also the company can collect information in real time, and it will be a very important thing also to provide inputs for the preventive and protective measures that the company and the workers can undertake during these operations. Other things that have been used or increasingly are the use of drones and manned aerial vehicles in different ways. For example, here you can see a truck that is a drone, and basically is performing the operations managed by someone with a screen, with a laptop or the type of device. Still here, there is a challenge when you have these drones and at the same time you have other workers operating nearby. So, but in different companies, the activities are performed, or the most dangerous activities, for example, underground activities, are using operating drones. Same thing like some other drones and aerial vehicles like this one, in which basically they are doing work that they were particularly dangerous for workers. For example, this using these drones, you can check the status of the electrical lines without putting an operator in the top of these towers that have a lot of risk. Or, for example, when you have to work in underwaters in the submarine cable, you have to do operations underground or under submarine operations, are also things that increasingly are having more and more drones or unmanned aerial vehicles. Also, the inspectorates are using in some jurisdictions this type of devices with a camera to control the operations in some areas, some remote areas. And in fact, in some countries, like for example in Argentina, they are using massively this type of drones to control agriculture sector or rural areas where the access is not so simple and where it is not so simple to identify where the workers are in activity in one moment of the time. Another thing that has been also used by inspectors This is an example from the Lithuanian Labor Inspectorate. They are using a camera and a recorder. This camera, when inspectors perform inspection visit, is on. So everything that the inspector is doing is seen, is speaking with someone else, is recorded. This has different purposes. The first purpose is to generate evidences on what are the situations that the inspectors are finding when they are visiting a company. Also to keep records on the interviews or in the discussions that the inspector may have with workers, with employers, etc. It's also one way to keep security, the security of the inspectors. When everything is recorded, people may have different attitudes with the inspectors, and it's also used by the inspectorate management as a way to check also the work performed by the inspectors. So basically, I wanted just to illustrate that artificial intelligence and digitalization and the different devices are having an important impact in the workplaces, in the works performed by the workers in the companies, and also by the labor inspectors, and it can be a good benefit for all these type of things. I wanted to also to continue the presentation of yesterday, in which we were talking about the list of important factors in the compliance with the rules. I mentioned to you that the Netherlands, the Ministry of Justice, made an analysis on the 11 key factors determining the compliance. Yesterday, I was talking to you about how important is the knowledge of the rules for the duty holders, particularly employers, but also workers, in the compliance with the law. Of course, if you don't know the rules, if you don't understand the rules, it would be very difficult to comply with such rules. I wanted just to bring, I already mentioned some of these issues, but I wanted to bring a couple of examples that seems to me quite interesting. One is, for example, the Health and Safety Executive. The Health and Safety Executive have this instrument in which for each regulation you may have, for each article, you have an explanation on what is the meaning of this article, what is the meaning of this other article, what is the guidance. This is very helpful because sometimes standards, rules, laws are not so simple for the employers. Another interesting experience could be how you can provide information to those that have small businesses or low risk businesses. For them, it will not be so simple to read and understand all the regulations. Sometimes what they need is some specific guidance regarding what they have to do very specifically. So public authorities also have the responsibilities together with other partners, maybe in the workers organization and employee organizations, to facilitate this kind of information to those that has to apply these regulations. Another element that was important regarding the compliance is the cost benefit. Advantage and disadvantage that the duty holder, the employer, may get for compliance or not compliance with the law. So in other terms, how much I will earn in terms of cost, I mean, in terms of benefit, if I don't apply the regulations, or how much I earn in terms of benefits if I apply the regulations. So the cost benefits considerations are also relevant. And one important thing that public authorities could do is try to give competitive advantage to those that are in compliance with the law. And this is basically what is done with the sanctions. Basically, sanctions, as mentioned by Mr. Chen Yu, has the purpose to create a deterrence effect. I mean, sanctions are not just for collecting money. Sanctions are just to make duty holders more interested in complying with the law than in not complying with the law. So in some places, inspectorates emphasize the good reputation of those that are complying with the law. For example, in Jordan or in other countries, they offer prizes for those companies that have the best performance on occupational safety and health. There are also other countries that publish bad reputation list. I mean, the companies that has been prosecuted on occupational safety and health. For example, we saw 2 webinars ago, Singapore. Singapore has a list of indicating those companies that has been sanctioned because of violation of occupational safety and health regulations. This information is public, and probably it will have an impact in the reputation of these companies, and it will have also a cost for that. Another thing is related with the extent in which the rule, the standards, the law is accepted by the target group, by the employers. And this is why it is very important that the law and the regulation has been elaborated with the participation, the involvement of workers and employers in the different phases. So also when the workers' organization and the employers, particularly the employers' organization, support this type of standard, the extent of acceptance can increase. So it's very important also to take into account the possible arguments that are put forward by the employers to explain carefully why the law has these contents, what are the purposes of the different elements, so that the duty holder, the employers, particularly the target group, don't have wrong perceptions about the law, and also can understand that the punishment is just something that are there just to create incentives for the compliance with the law. Another element is the target group respect for the authority. This is an element that is difficult to influence, but it has been observed in different countries or in different regions and different people. I mean, so and it's related with in which extent people respect the law in one country in general, and people respect this particular law. This is something that is difficult to influence, as mentioned, by education and attention to standard and values from the very beginning in the life plays a very important role. Also, so emphasize respect for the official authority of the public bodies. Another element is if there is some incentives or sanctions for not complying with the law by others that are not the public authorities. In some countries, for example, in many countries that they have customers, multinational customers, there is a logic in which these multinationals frequently they have some policies that don't want to be connected or be linked with providers that don't respect some fundamental rights of the workers, like forced labor, child labor, or that they don't have a safe and healthy working environment. So sometimes the importance of keeping a customer that is particularly concerned with safety and health, it has a stronger motivation for a company to respect safety and health regulations or practices. And also in some countries, if you have many accidents, maybe you can damage your reputation among your customers. Your customers, maybe they don't want to have or to purchase things in a company that is not respecting safety and health regulations. So basically, this factor is related in which extent there are social control for those that are not compliant with the safety and health regulations. There are another set of elements. There are 4 elements that are associated to the operations of the labor inspectorate. The first one is the risk of being reported. The risk, as estimated by the target group, the employers, that violations will be detected by other authorities, by the authority other than the authorities to the government body. For example, someone can detect violations and inform the labor inspectorate. For example, in Argentina, the labor inspectorate has created a system for which public or even workers can send pictures, particularly in the construction sites, when these construction sites are not safe. So they receive in one of the provinces of Argentina, they receive pictures of places, construction sites that they are not safe. And labor inspectorates may decide to visit this place to see if everything is in order or not. Also, there are this possibility of having complaints not directly from workers, but by the public. For example, in my country, in Spain, we have the possibility to have a complaint. When there is a complaint, frequently is made by a worker or a worker organization against a particular company. Normally, it's required that the complainant should put the name, the reference, but there is also the possibility that someone can send anonymously this type of information. Another element is the risk of inspection. How much risk of inspection I may have in my company if I broke the rules. So it will depend on how good is the labor inspectorate in selecting those companies that are breaking the law. For example, in some countries, there is a system for which those companies that they have more accidents or diseases are inspected more frequently than the others. Instead, in other countries, the companies that are more visited are those around the labor inspectorate office. So probably the risk of inspection, if you are violating the law, probably is more connected to the fact that if you have many accidents and diseases, it's because you don't have a good situation in your workplace. And the labor inspectorate should be capable to get information on this regard. Another is the risk of detection. In which extent, when you visit a company and there is a violation of the law, the inspector will detect this thing. For example, in some companies, the practice of the inspectors is to go and to check paperwork. Sometimes they don't go to the workshops where the work is happening. And they don't check the real conditions of the workers. Some of them maybe are not good enough. But if the employer knows that what labor inspectors do mainly is to check that the paper are okay, probably people are not so worried about how the labor inspectorate will detect any violation. Another element is how you select, in which way you select the companies in which the labor inspectorate will perform the activities. Targeting groups with a higher risk of offending, possibility of setting up databases, possibilities of linking files from different enforcement organizations. This has become very common now, and now is becoming also very common, also not only sharing data with all different enforcement public agencies, but also use artificial intelligence devices to try to make for you the selection of those companies that they have more chances of violating the law, particularly in this case on violating the safety and health law. The two elements are related with the sanctions. The first one is the risk, as estimated by the employer, of a sanction being imposed if an inspection reveals that the rule has been broken. What are the probability that if you have a violation, you will have a sanction? It will depend on the sanctions policy of the inspectorate. There are some inspectorates, like for example, United States, Italy, or the Netherlands, that when they identify a violation of the law in the company, automatically they apply a sanction. Instead, there are other countries in which when they see a violation of the law, particularly if they are not very serious, they give the chance to the employer to fix this thing and not having the sanction. So the policy of the inspectorate also have importance in this factor. Other elements are related with the severity and the nature of the sanction associated with the violations. For example, in some countries, penalties can be very high. For example, in my country, highest sanction on safety and health is around 800,000 euros. It's very, very high, even if it's not applied, but there is the possibility to apply this kind of very high sanctions. In some countries, like for example in Italy, there are penal sanctions. It means that employers or managers of the companies that they may have very serious violations on safety and health, particularly when there are workers with a serious disease, accident, or a fatal accident may face penal charges. I mean, in some countries, there are several employers in jail for that. Or in some jurisdictions, for example, they emphasize the immediate sanctioning. For example, in some jurisdiction of Canada, inspectors can impose a sanction in the way that you can receive a sanction from a policeman. I mean, so they have the capacity to impose administrative sanctions immediate. So these are some of the elements or some of the factors that can make the duty holders, particularly employers, more in favor to implement the standards on occupational safety and health of any kind of standards or not. I mean, they are the incentives that are created in the system. So I didn't want to go more because it's a little bit late, but I would like just to give you the chance if you have any question or any comment on this second part of the presentation.
Nothing from me, Felix. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Eldon. Okay, if you don't have any other question and comment, we will stop here. I would like just to inform you that next week we will have the following session. The next sessions will be on participation and coordination on occupational safety and health. Quite important, the role of the public authorities to make possible the participation of workers and employers organization at the national level, but also at the enterprise level. We will see some experiences. And we will have the experience of another country. It's a country from the Indic Ocean, is Mauritius. And we will have the head of the Occupational Safety and Health Department of the Mauritius Islands just sharing their experience on occupational safety and health, on national programs, systems, etc. Thank you very much, and see you next week then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you,
evening.
Felix.
Thank you all.
Thank
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Lazar.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Chanju.
Thank you, Felix.